Hey everyone, for our CS410 project, we developed a categorization and searching tool called Startup Search. This tool basically aims to solve some problems associated with the categorization of startups in various industries, as well as improve the understanding of each startup and where it lies in comparison with other startups. So there are some problems that exist today when each person, or in particular investors, try to categorize the startup and think whether the startup warrants an investment for its novel technology in its respective field. Furthermore, the understanding and deduction of the stage of each startup, as well as the amount of funding required at a given valuation, is extremely subjective to each investor. For example, one VC might think that a startup is currently offering the best technology in its field, while another VC might think that the technology this startup is offering is not even novel at all. Due to this difference in perception, we built this tool for investors to have a better way to search for interesting startups. There is also a lack of standardized methodology to judge startups against one another, and thus we want to offer the ability to find the best startups in each industry with our unique ranking system. To solve these problems that we highlighted in the previous slide, we offer the following functionalities. We classify startups in three different stages based on multiple metrics such as number of funding rounds, the number of milestones each company has reached, and the stage of each funding round. We then allow you to search these startups based on these categories as well as by industry, since many investors often look for specific investments in specific fields of interest. Finally, to bring a sense of clarity on how each startup is performing compared to others, we employed a ranking system that takes into account the Alexa rank of the startup website and ranks each of these startups based on that. We also add a trending flag to show if the startup is scaling and growing at a much faster rate than others. We are also aware that this tool might be used by startups themselves to get a better idea of their investors and their respective profiles. Therefore, we also added investors to the mix of companies present and made a profile for them as well. Currently, the solutions that exist today are either incomplete or, as mentioned earlier, do not collate all the relevant data in one place. We see that Crunchbase, which is the most prominent place to create profiles for startups and investors, has a lot of data on each company, but lacks ranking systems and classification systems specific to investors. Similarly, we see news sources such as TechCrunch that provide the latest up-to-date information about startups, but this only offers a news source that is not entirely useful to an investor. Hence, to collect our data, we used the best of both solutions and collected our data from Crunchbase as well as TechCrunch. Finally, to implement our ranking system, we also employed Alexa ranks and stored all this information on a remote SQL server hosted on AWS. For categorization and ranking system, we created our own novel method to categorize startups based on data such as valuations, funding rounds, and acquisitions. We then determined that in today's extremely connected world, page views are a very good way to judge popularity, and hence we use Alexa ranks to rank the startups against one another. Finally, by looking at recent milestones attained and funding rounds within a small period of time, we created our own novel trending flag to determine if a certain startup is scaling and growing at a much faster pace than the others. For website implementation, we use HTML for design with CSS, and to channel all the data from the remote MySQL server on AWS, we use PHP to conduct database queries in real time and to get the latest data. Here are some screenshots of how our website looks like and works. This is the trending page for startup search. You'll see all the trending startups listed over here. And here is how each profile or each startup would look like. In the future, we would like to make tons of improvements to the website. We would like to firstly improve the user experience part of it by having a nicer user interface and design, and perhaps include more methodologies that we have learned in class, such as crawlers and text analysis. We also want to expand our dataset to include more startups. We are limited on the amount of requests we could make to Alexa, and in the future, with no such restrictions in place, we could probably include more startups to give a richer and more reliable experience for investors using our product. We'd also like to implement some overview visualizations that will give a bird's eye perspective on each industry or startup using technologies such as D3.